Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, police have made a stunning discovery during a random breath test on the Bass Highway, stumbling across around $2 million worth of drugs and cash inside a car. 2 women from interstate now face serious drug trafficking charges. Reporter Tom Johnson has more.
The 2 women were driving north on the Bass Highway towards Devonport when they were pulled over for a random breath test at Deloraine. When police searched the vehicle, they claimed to have found $1.3 million worth of the drug ice inside, along with $750,000 in cash. The haul described by police as significant. A failed drug test by the driver and a subsequent search from drug detection dogs led to the bombshell find.
You might say there was an element of luck, but you've got to be in the right place to get lucky.
The women, aged 44 and 48 years old, are from New South Wales. Details around how the pair came into the state and where the drugs came from are still being investigated.
We certainly have serious concerns that this is linked to a much more serious group of criminals profiting from the sale of drugs.
Tasmania Police says it sends a strong message to would-be criminals.
We're pleased that we've potentially impacted on a distribution network of the drug ice in Tasmania.
The pair has been charged with drug trafficking and dealing in the proceeds of crime. They'll reappear in court next Friday.
Expect to see red and blue lights. That's the message police are sending dangerous drivers. A blitz has been launched across the state amid concerns over a spiralling number of speeding fines. 36 lives were lost on Tasmanian roads last year, with speed a key factor.
Most of the fatal and serious crashes occurred in speed zones that were exceeding 80 kilometres an hour, which really only goes to show that the higher the speed, the more likely the outcome of serious injury or death.
Police say inattention is also becoming a growing problem. A Tasmanian State Service employee stood down on child sex abuse allegations has been cleared to return to work. In a statement, State Service boss Jenny Gale said further action had not been deemed necessary against the worker. 14 staff from government departments have been stood down since last year on allegations of historical and contemporary sex abuse. It's almost certain Tasmania will become the 3rd state in Australia to introduce voluntary assisted dying laws. The lower house passed the legislation in a late-night vote. It will now return to the House of Review for what is expected to be a final tick of approval.
There were hugs and celebration as the lower house voted in favour of voluntary assisted dying laws.
16 ayes and 6 noes, therefore the ayes have it.
For independent Mike Gaffney, the feeling was relief. He introduced the bill to the upper house last year and was present last night when it passed.
I got to the stage when, gosh, they're about to vote. That's the bill. We were sitting there going, we expected it to go for a bit longer. And so it was quite amazing.
He's had sisters Jackie and Natalie Gray by his side throughout the campaign.
And then all of a sudden, as it started unfolding, we're like, holy, this is going to happen. This is going to happen now.
They began advocating for the laws when they lost their mother Diane, watching on as the law slowly progressed through Parliament. Baby Tilly Diane there every step of the way.
Been through Parliament in my tummy the entire duration, and then she sat through Parliament when she was 4 days old, again at 4 weeks old, and now back at 4 months old. I think she'll be proud of her nanny. Yeah.
But those who voted against the legislation have today been left with a heavy heart.
A decision has been made, and I'll continue to be very mindful of making sure that if there are any consequences to this, particularly for vulnerable people, that I'll be watching out for that.
Once it gets a final tick of approval from the upper house, the laws are expected to be in place by the middle of next year.
As a result, Tasmania will now be the 3rd state in the country that will have voluntary assisted dying laws. Now, obviously, that's a matter still to be determined finally in the upper house.
The legislation is expected to return to the upper house on the 23rd of this month for a final vote. The last time it was brought before the House of Review, it made history when it was passed unanimously.
I see no reason for it not to be passed there. The amendments that were made were clarifying amendments. They weren't significant in changing the principle of the bill. So, yeah, I'm very hopeful.
An historic bill now on the home stretch. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmanian News.
6,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine are expected to arrive in Tasmania soon. For more, we're joined by reporter Sean McComish. Good evening, Sean. What does this development mean for the vaccine rollout?
Well, Kim, it's actually going to bring forward the second phase of the program by 2 weeks. That's going to include people aged 70 and over, as well as healthcare workers and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. The Premier expects the second phase to begin on March 19. More details on how people can book will be provided soon. In the meantime, the AstraZeneca clinics will be set up at the Royal Hobart Hospital and other sites next week.
Well, very excited to actually see further vaccine coming into Tasmania and coming earlier than planned. It's put our team certainly into a lot of work in trying to just match up our logistical plans with our clinics opening, etc.
We're very excited, looking forward to the vaccine becoming more available and broadening out the phases as we work through this.
So far, more than 2,300 Tasmanians have received the Pfizer jab, as well as 570 residents and staff in aged care. Health workers in the north and northwest will also be rolling up their sleeves soon, with Pfizer hubs on track to start on March 15. Kim?
Okay, thank you very much, Sean McComish there. Well, construction has at last begun on the delay-plagued Hobart Airport Roundabout. The $46 million interchange project had been the subject of planning disputes, but will now proceed. Commuters are being urged to be patient with roadworks.
Because of roadworks prove that we are getting things done here, but the pain is going to definitely be worth the gain in the long term.
This means that 4 lanes will travel from Hobart through to Sorell over coming years, but the first priority is this interchange. You'll get complete uninterrupted travel over the interchange.
Work is expected to be completed by the end of next year. Labor says it will spend $17.5 million installing solar panels and other energy-efficient upgrades to Tasmania's social housing properties if it's in power. Long-term public housing tenant Peter Bricknell says her power bill soars during winter.
I'm mopping floors, literally mopping the walls. My power bills average between $1,000 to $2,000. $2,000 is a minimum every winter.
Putting solar panels on roofs, upgrading the properties so they're energy efficient will make such a difference to how the homes feel. They'll be warmer, they'll be drier, but also power bills will be less.
The government says it's invested $15 million for public housing heating and energy efficiency initiatives in the most recent budget. A new facility in Risdon Vale is hoping to minimise waste in the construction industry. Reprocessed Tas recycles waste, including soil and concrete, which was previously sent to landfill, turning it into landscaping and construction material.
Us to take from building sites materials, return those materials after they've been processed into the building sites again as a high quality product.
The facility itself was built using materials sourced from demolition projects. A new online recruitment service linking up employers with suitable workers has launched in northern Tasmania. The Northern Employment and Business Hub aims to help job seekers find work, while also pairing them up with training providers to enhance their skill set.
It's actually connect local people with local jobs. And it's a really important role because in northern Tasmania there are 40% of jobs are actually in the hidden market. And what we mean by the hidden market is they're actually not advertised. So your networks are vitally critical.
The Tasmanian Community Fund has provided $450,000 over 3 years for the project. Launceston, West Tamar and Georgetown councils support the initiative.
This is a fantastic mechanism to uncover that potential and also find meaningful employment for people who otherwise would have fallen through the cracks.
More than 24 businesses have already signed up with a focus on jobs in tourism and hospitality, agriculture, manufacturing, aged care and construction. A long-lost piece of art is finally in the eye of the beholder after a 2-year search uncovered Brett Whiteley's piece Waves 5 in QV Mag storage. The museum realised the work was missing when a researcher asked to see it, leading to an audit of the entire collection, the first since QV Mag's inception in 1891.
Things have been done probably quickly at times or probably not the best, and You remember 100 years ago, or even 30 years ago, the recording systems were not the same as what we have today.
This is an example of Brett Whiteley's later work. It's very calligraphic in style. It's not necessarily representative of other styles that he worked on over the years, but it does represent a very interesting part of his career.
1976 ink drawing had never been displayed until now. Will go on show for the public. Well, a platoon of primary school kids has helped return sparkle to the sands at Bellreeve Beach. The youngsters set the example today ahead of Clean Up Australia Day this weekend.
Well, we've actually found some quite unusual stuff. Like in here, I've got some really big bottles and even clothing in there.
Last year we had about 2,500 people clean up about 16 tonnes of rubbish around Clarence, and we'd love to see a number of groups again this year.
If you want to join the effort too, head online to cleanup.org.au. Hobart artist Sebastian Galloway has taken out the 2021 Glover Prize for his copper mining inspired artwork of Mount Lyell. Judges say they were impressed with the technique and reflective meaning of the piece.
This copper creation caught the judges' eyes.
It's almost like a musical instrument, but it sings because it's painterly as well.
The artist behind it, Sebastian Galloway, was shocked when he found out he'd won the prestigious prize.
You know, I wasn't sure they had the right person, or I should believe it until I walked through the door here, and I was clearly in the right place when I did so.
The 31-year-old Hobart-based artist was inspired by Queenstown's mining history, using oil paint on copper to capture Mount Lyell through an acid raindrop.
I feel like the acid rain thing's, it's scientifically sort of like understood, but it's almost like a bit of like a Tasmanian sort of folklore thing as well, and sort of formed that connection between copper mining and, you know, just an idea to make an image that had like a connection to the material that I was using, rather than just using it as some kind of like, you know, pretty background.
The whole technique, I know from a couple of my artists who've worked on copper, what a nightmare it is to do.
Sebastian walks away with $50,000 in prize money. 640 works were submitted this year, including pieces from overseas and interstate, with judges narrowing it down to just 42.
Considering the year that it's been, I think there's been a reconnection with nature, the landscape and the Tasmanian environment. And the overall view is one of positivity and one of recognising the beauty of the Tasmanian landscape.
The artworks will be on display at Evandale's Falls Park Pavilion from tomorrow until March 14. Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmanian News.
A former America's Cup tactician is among a stellar SB20 lineup in Hobart for the National Championships. The collapse of international sailing events means this year's titles have attracted all of the top Aussie names. Ben Lamb hopes he has the measure of those hitting the water for this year's Nationals, and he'll need his boat in tip-top shape. A star field has assembled, surprisingly, thanks to COVID.
The top professionals that would normally be overseas training for the Olympics or America's Cup or various other regattas are now forced to be back in Australia.
Lamb is the current Tasmanian SB20 champion and usually travels around the globe, also serving as a tactician in the America's Cup. Now he'll be trying to wrest defending champion Will Sargent's crown over the weekend. Despite having the youngest fleet in the field, Sargent is well versed on the Derwent.
I've been sailing for 9 years and it's all been on the Derwent, but there's a lot of much more experienced guys here that have been sailing even longer. So I mean, yeah, it's my backyard, but I think not the most experienced here either.
The women's title belongs to Jill Abel. She's on board the boat Cook Your Own Dinner, a name devised after she and a friend started training midweek.
Thursday nights is twilight racing, and we worked out there'd been a number of years where we hadn't had nights off cooking, so Thursday night became a night off cooking, and at home was Cook Your Own Dinner.
Post-race, Ben Lamb will be watching next week's America's Cup in New Zealand, which no Australian team has entered this year. The proud Tasmanian hopes that can change.
All of us sailors are dying to get an Australian team. The problem is it's really, really expensive to do the America's Cup.
The National Championships are on the water all weekend. Tasmanian Tigers have gone into today's Sheffield Shield clash without Test skipper Tim Payne, who pulled out with illness. He was missed. The Tigers were all out for 188 in their first innings against Victoria. Jake Doran top scored with 52. Peter Hanscom is unbeaten for the Vics, also on 52. Former Hurricanes player Scott Boland is with him at the crease at stumps. Victoria 3 for 70, trailing by 118 runs. Tasmania's NBL team has locked in its first major sponsor. Federal Group is joining the Jack Jumpers as its hospitality partner. The company will provide accommodation for teams playing in Hobart and Launceston when the club enters the league next season. Hobart's Harry Bouchier has lost his semi-final doubles clash at the St Petersburg Challenger in Russia. After winning the first set alongside Dutchman Mark Vervoet, the pair was eventually knocked out in a tiebreak. And it's Friday flashback time, and this week is an absolute beauty. The 1994 Telecom Tasmania run, dubbed Hell in Paradise, saw runners battle blizzards and gale force winds in the ultimate test of toughness. It was a race which defied medical advice and perhaps common sense. Amongst the whiteouts, some of the bravest athletes in the world pushed through punishing powder and sub-zero temperatures. Scarily, this was just stage 2 of the 7-day, 620-kilometre ultramarathon around the state, known as the Telecom Tasmania Run.
The weather conditions are absolutely crucial to your survival. You must be rugged up against the weather. Snow is predicted. In fact, snow is falling right now on the higher reaches.
The maelstrom of pain was rewarded with a reprieve from bad weather. In fact, heat was more of an issue in stage 4, but the incredible distances being covered took its toll. Early leader Don Wallace kissed the race goodbye when his battered body gave up on him after limping for 50 kilometres. On day 5, the field shrunk at an alarming rate. The adrenaline had worn off and injuries became too intense to push through. After that, the snow was back. Greek Yanis Kouros had a solution.
Sips of ouzo, his only comfort.
Russian Anatoly Kruglikov won the freezing leg from Devonport to Cradle Mountain. The tough as nails Kouros also finished, but he thought he was going to die.
But there's nothing more dear than your health, your life, and of course your family and friends. And I thought of my family.
Englishman Eric Seedhouse also suffered, ploughing through painkillers.
You want to go on?
No, absolutely. I'm not pulling out of this race. No way.
From Strawn to Queenstown's Bends, past the Linda Hotel, then the final leg from Port Arthur to Hobart, and Mother Nature's final sucker punch. Devastating winds flattened those crossing the Tasman Bridge. It's incredible they even finished, but Kruglikov was the fastest by 44 minutes. Britain's Eleanor Robinson was the fastest woman. They refused to be beaten.
I certainly do not believe that it is too tough. In fact, we're pitching it as the toughest race on earth, and that's what it's proved to be.
11 of the 27 starters pulled out, and the race would never return. Sheer guts from those who survived Hell in Paradise.
Good evening. Devonport and St Helens, 21 degrees today, and that was the state's warmest. Hobart 16, Launceston 20 and Burnie 19 degrees. Maximum temperature sat between 3 and 8 below average. Bushy Park, Low Head and Flinders Island 19, Friendly Beaches 18, King Island 17, Strawn 15 and Lyawini 10. Clear skies across the north today, cloudy elsewhere in that cool, fresh southwesterly airstream. Few showers over the south and southeast. An onshore stream had cloud pushing up over Tasmania and the southern mainland. Cloud with cyclones over the Coral Sea and off Western Australia. They've named that one there Marion, so it can't be too aggressive. I've never known a Marion to be that bad. Tomorrow a high moves to our southwest, a cold front to the south of Western Australia. Low pressure troughs linger over the north of the country. Winds southwest to southeasterly at 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots over the east before easing during the evening. Swells to 5 metres in the south. Strong wind warning has been issued from the north of Flinders Island right through to southeast Cape. Hobart for the beginning of the long weekend, partly cloudy and 19, 18 the top for Maydena, Oatlands 19. Launceston, a top of 22 and sunny for Devonport, 19 the top and 17 for Lyawini, a -1 overnight, they're creeping in, 19 for Burnie and sunny, partly cloudy for Strawn, 18 the high for Marrawar, St Helens expecting 19, Swansea 19 and Orford a cloudy 18 degrees. There's the UV, it's 8 and very high for tomorrow. On Sunday, fine apart from possible light showers over the west in the evening. Cloudy on Monday, mainly fine though, the chance of a shower over the southeast. And on Tuesday, fine over the north, a shower clearing the west but developing later in the northeast. Partly cloudy in Perth, a sunny 28 in Adelaide, fine for Melbourne, partly cloudy and 24 for both Canberra and Sydney, a possible shower for Brisbane. And here are the current conditions, and we do wish Tom Johnson all the best on his holiday. He is hoping to win the Fashions on the Field at Broken Hill Races on Monday, Kim. He used to work there, so the place is full of his ex-girlfriends, so at least he'll have a fan base.
Okay, thanks very much, Murph. And that is your news for this Friday. Have a great long weekend. And if you're travelling, please take care on the roads. For now, on behalf of the entire 7 Tasmania News team, good night.